What if pulling away from people as you get older isn't a sign that something is wrong, but a signal that something deeper is changing? Many people over 60 quietly worrying that avoiding social gatherings, phone calls, or even close relationships means they're becoming lonely, bitter, or depressed. But there's a mystery here. Why do millions of older adults across the United States report feeling more selective with people, yet not necessarily unhappy? Something important is missing from the conversation, and until it's understood, this natural shift can feel confusing or even frightening. For decades, social aging was framed as loss. Fewer friends, smaller circles, less energy. But that story began to crack in the late 20th century when psychologists studying aging noticed a contradiction. Older adults were socializing less, yet reporting higher emotional stability. Researchers like Dr. Laura Carstensen at Stanford uncovered a turning point in aging science, socio-emotional selectivity theory. It showed that as people age, they don't withdraw because they can't connect, they withdraw because they choose to connect differently. That insight changed everything, but it never fully reached everyday life. To understand why avoidance feels so pronounced later in life, you have to trace the cause and effect timeline back to early adulthood. In your 20s and 30s, social expansion is rewarded. Careers, families, and friendships grow at the same time. According to U.S. Time U surveys, younger adults spend large portions of their lives in group settings, multitasking relationships for opportunity, support, and identity. At this stage, tolerating difficult personalities feels necessary. You don't yet know which connections matter most. Then the 40s arrive, and changes start quietly. Emotional bandwidth tightens, responsibilities increase. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that midlife adults begin prioritizing efficiency of time, energy, and emotion. Social interactions that once felt neutral now feel draining. This isn't avoidance yet, it's filtering. You still show up, but you start noticing which conversations leave you depleted and which leave you grounded. After 65, a major shift occurs that most people ignore. Time perception changes. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that older adults experience time as more limited, not in a fearful way, but in a clarifying one. When time feels precious, tolerance drops. Small talk feels empty. Obligatory relationships feel heavy. The brain begins favoring emotional meaning over novelty. This is the first psychological reason people start avoiding others. Heightened emotional selectivity. You're no longer willing to spend energy where there's no return. The second reason is improved emotional regulation. Neuroscience research shows that older adults, on average, react less intensely to negative social stimuli. You don't need to argue, explain, or defend as much. Avoidance becomes a peaceful alternative to conflict. From the outside, it looks like withdrawal. Internally, it feels like calm. The third reason is reduced identity validation needs. Earlier in life, relationships help define who you are. By later life, identity is more settled. According to longitudinal studies, older adults rely less on social feedback to feel secure. This reduces the drive to maintain wide social networks. You're not avoiding people, you're no longer chasing validation. The fourth reason is accumulated social knowledge. After decades of interaction, patterns become obvious. You recognize draining dynamics quickly. Avoidance becomes a learned efficiency, not fear. Across millions of seniors, surveys show a shared sentiment. I know what I don't want anymore. That knowledge wasn't available earlier. The fifth reason emerges at the breaking point after loss. Retirement, bereavement, health scares. These experiences recalibrate priorities fast. The health and retirement study shows that after major life events, older adults often narrow their social circles sharply. This is protective. It reduces emotional overload during vulnerable periods. Avoidance here is a form of self-regulation. The sixth reason is physical and cognitive energy conservation. Social interaction requires processing speed, hearing, attention, and stamina. As these subtly change, the cost of interaction rises. Avoidance is not rejection, it's pacing. Ignoring this reality leads to guilt that shouldn't exist. The breaking point where this becomes visible often comes when someone says, "You've changed," or "You don't come around anymore." That comment can sting. Many seniors wonder if they're becoming antisocial. But data from American health surveys shows that social satisfaction often remains stable or even improves, despite reduced frequency of interaction. The problem isn't avoidance, it's misunderstanding. The fallout of mislabeling this shift can affect health, money, and lifestyle. Seniors who force themselves into unwanted social situations experience higher stress and fatigue. Chronic stress is linked to inflammation and sleep disruption. Financially, maintaining unnecessary obligations costs money and energy. Lifestyle-wise, guilt-driven socializing crowds out activities that actually restore well-being. Again, the pattern repeats nationwide. So what do people try? Failed fixes based on old advice? Just get out more. Stay busy. Don't isolate. These messages ignore intent and quality. Studies show that forced socialization does not improve well-being and can worsen it. Quantity without meaning backfires. The truth, revealed slowly, is this: avoiding people as you age is often a sign of psychological health, not decline if it's intentional and balanced. So, what can people over 60 apply today? First, audit your energy, not your calendar. Notice which interactions replenish you and which drain you. Keep the first, reduce the second. Second, replace obligation with choice. Social health improves when connection is voluntary. Even small boundary changes restore control. Third, invest deeply, not widely. Research shows that a few emotionally meaningful relationships provide more protection than many shallow ones. Here's the warning. Based on evidence, avoidance driven by fear or depression is different from selective withdrawal. If isolation feels painful rather than peaceful, it deserves attention. And here's the open thought to hold for the next video. If aging clarifies what truly matters, what might you finally be allowed to let go of without apology? If this resonated, subscribe for the next chapter, where we explore how to tell the difference between healthy solitude and harmful isolation after 65 and why that distinction changes everything.